paradox of rest, conscious recovery for enhancing resilience introduction in today's fast-paced world, where the rhythm of life accelerates every year. The topic of recovery and rest has become increasingly relevant. People face information overload, high professional demands, stressful situations, and a constant need to maintain high productivity. In such conditions, the question of how to rest and recover effectively becomes not merely a philosophical consideration, but a practical necessity for maintaining health, psychological resilience, and long-term productivity. However, an interesting phenomenon exists, which can be called the paradox of rest. At first glance, rest should automatically lead to recovery, reducing fatigue, improving mood, and enhancing cognitive functions. In practice, however, it often turns out that even after extended weekends or vacations, a person returns to work feeling tired, irritable, and less productive. This phenomenon highlights that not all forms of rest are genuinely restorative. Paradoxically, an active, conscious approach to recovery is often much more effective than passive leisure that only seems like rest. The goal of this work is to explore the mechanisms underlying the paradox of rest and present the concept of conscious recovery as a tool for enhancing human resilience to stress and workload. We will analyze the physiological, psychological, and cognitive aspects of fatigue, examine different approaches to recovery, and offer practical recommendations for integrating conscious rest into daily life. Chapter 1. The Nature of Fatigue. In Recovery 1.1, Physiological Aspects of Fatigue. Fatigue is a natural response of the body to stress and workload. It manifests as decreased physical and mental energy, slower reactions, and impaired cognitive functions. Physiologically, fatigue is associated with the depletion of cellular energy resources. The accumulation of metabolites such as lactic acid and changes in hormonal balance. A key element is mitochondrial function, which supplies energy to cells. Prolonged exertion reduces mitochondrial efficiency, leading to physical weakness and decreased performance. Additionally, the hormone cortisol plays a critical role. It regulates stress responses. High cortisol levels over extended periods lead to catabolic processes in muscles, reduced immunity, and disturbed sleep. Continuous physical and emotional strain without adequate recovery leads to chronic fatigue and burnout syndrome. 1.2 Psychological fatigue and emotional burnout. Equally important is the psychological aspect of fatigue. Emotional overload, stressful work situations, personal conflicts, and continuous cognitive demands result in emotional exhaustion. This manifests as apathy, irritability, and reduced motivation and concentration. Psychologists identify three main components of emotional burnout: emotional exhaustion, a sense of total depletion and inability to cope with demands; depersonalization, a cynical or detached attitude toward work, colleagues, and others; reduced personal efficacy, the feeling that efforts do not yield results or influence outcomes. These processes are closely linked to physiological mechanisms of fatigue. Chronic stress raises cortisol levels, disrupts neurotransmitter function, and impairs sleep, further enhancing psychological exhaustion. 1.3 Mechanisms of body recovery is a complex process aimed at restoring energy, normalizing physiological functions, and maintaining cognitive and emotional balance. Key components include sleep, a fundamental recovery mechanism necessary for memory consolidation, hormonal regulation, and energy restoration; nutrition, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and minerals play a critical role in cell regeneration; and neurotransmitter synthesis, physical activity, moderate exercise improves circulation; endorphin production, and tension relief. Cognitive recovery, reducing information overload, giving the brain a break, and switching attention to new or relaxing tasks. These processes are interrelated. Quality sleep enhances cognitive recovery. Physical activity improves sleep quality. Proper nutrition helps reduce stress. Chapter 2. The Paradox of Rest. 2.1. What is the paradox of rest? The paradox of rest is that time spent in conventional passive rest does not always lead to recovery and sometimes even intensifies fatigue. In practice, this manifests as a person returning from weekends or vacations, feeling that rest has not helped, and the workload feels even heavier. This phenomenon contradicts intuitive expectations. If we rest, we should recover. However, modern psychology and neuroscience show that the quality and mindfulness of rest are more important than its duration. The paradox can be summarized as quantity of rest does not equal quality of recovery. Passive leisure often fails to reduce cognitive and emotional tension. Conscious rest activates stress regulation mechanisms and enhances resilience. To point to why passive rest often fails. Passive rest involves doing nothing, lying on the couch, watching TV, or scrolling through social media. While it seems ideal, research highlights several problems. Information overload. Modern passive rest often involves screen time and news flow. Maintaining cognitive tension. Lack of attention switching. The brain does not disengage from stressful thoughts, leaving emotional fatigue unaddressed. Insufficient physical activity. The body does not fully recover without movement. Its muscles remain tense, and circulation slows. Emotional stagnation. Passive rest does not stimulate positive emotions or a sense of fulfillment critical for psychological regeneration. Thus, common forms of rest often imitate recovery rather than genuinely restoring mental and physical resources. 2-3. Active and conscious rest. Active and conscious rest is the opposite of passive leisure. It involves deliberate management of time, focus on recovery, and balancing physical, cognitive, and emotional states. Key principles of active rest. Attention switching, consciously detaching from work, information flow, and anxious thoughts. Physical activity. Moderate exercise, walks, and stretching help restore the body and energy circulation. Emotional engagement. Hobbies, creativity, and social interaction generate positive emotions and satisfaction. Mindfulness. Awareness practices help track fatigue and adjust workload accordingly. Studies show that active rest stimulates endorphin and serotonin production, lowers cortisol, and improves cognitive flexibility. Conscious recovery not only compensates for fatigue, but also enhances resilience to future stressors. 2.4. Examples from research and practice. Office workers. Short daily outdoor walks reduce subjective fatigue by 30 to 40%, improving concentration and mood. Meditation and mindfulness. 8-week mindfulness programs lowered cortisol levels by 20% and improved cognitive flexibility. Creative recovery. Engaging in art, music, or crafts provides emotional release and meaningful rest, facilitating a return to work with higher productivity. Hence, paradox of rest shows that structured, active, and mindful recovery is often more effective than passive leisure. Chapter 3. Conscious recovery. 3.1 Concept of conscious recovery is intentional work on reducing fatigue and restoring mental and physical resources. Unlike passive rest, it involves focusing on balancing physical, cognitive, and emotional states. The goal is to enhance stress resilience, improve focus and productivity, and maintain emotional balance. It involves integrating recovery techniques into daily life, not only during vacations or weekends. 3.2. Recovery techniques. 3.1. Meditation and breathing practices. Meditation and breathing reduce stress, anxiety, and restore cognitive function. Simple breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 6 seconds. Repeat for 5 to 10 minutes. Mindfulness meditation. Focus on body sensations, breathing, or environmental sounds to reduce anxious thoughts. Regular practice lowers cortisol and improves sleep quality. Mindfulness enhances cognitive flexibility and emotional resilience. 3.2.2 Yoga and stretching. Yoga combines physical exercises, breathing and meditation, offering improved flexibility in circulation roted, muscle tension or vis system regulation. 15 to 20 minutes of yoga a few times a week reduces anxiety, improves mood, and strengthens resilience. 3223 nature walks and forest therapy spending. Time outdoors and in nature has therapeutic effects. Forest therapy, Shinrin-yoku, lowers cortisol, boosts immunity, and supports emotional recovery. Walking enhances circulation, activates respiration, promotes relaxation. Nature exposure reduces nervous tension and restores cognitive resources. 3-2-4 creative practices, creative activities like art, music, writing, and crafts allow safe, emotional expression, instant. Shift from problems to process personal efficacy and satisfaction, even 20 to 30 minutes. Daily can improve mood and reduce emotional fatigue. 3.3 Evaluating recovery effectiveness. Recovery effectiveness can be measured by subjective energy, feeling refreshed, reduced fatiguing emotional state, lower irritability and anxiety, improved mood, cognitive function, better focus, memory, and creativity. Physiological markers, sleep quality, heart rate, cortisol levels. Monitoring these indicators allows adjustment of recovery strategies for maximum benefit. Chapter 4. Impact of conscious recovery on resilience. 4.1 Psychological and stress resilience. Psychological resilience is the ability to adapt to stress, recover from emotional overload, and maintain productivity. Conscious recovery enhances this ability, reduces emotional exhaustion through active management of time and recovery practices, adaptability to stress, and improves task switching and clarity of thought, develops emotional regulation via mindfulness and creative practices. Research shows that employees practicing conscious recovery exhibit 25 to 30% higher resilience to work stress than those relying on passive rest. 4.2 Biochemical stress markers. Conscious recovery affects stress hormones, like cortisol and autonomic nervous system activity. Breathing and meditation reduce cortisol and adrenaline. Physical activity and yoga stimulate endorphins and serotonin. Nature walks normalize blood pressure and heart rate. Regular practice promotes both short-term recovery and long-term resilience to stress. 4.3 Cognitive function, focus, and productivity. Conscious recovery benefits cognitive processes, improved concentration, tension restoration, enhances task focus, enhanced creativity. Creative activities activate new neural pathways, reduce mental fatigue, prevents cognitive burnout, lowers errors, and boosts efficiencies. Integrating recovery techniques makes individuals more productive, focused, and creative, even under heavy workload. For success stories, corporate programs, mindfulness, and active breaks reduce stress by 35% and increase productivity by 20%. Personal stories, people incorporating walks, meditation, and creative hobbies report improved sleep, emotional stability, and life quality. Sports examples. Athletes use breathing, meditation, and yoga to enhance performance and prevent injuries. Linking recovery to resilience. Chapter 5. Practical recommendations. 5.1 Planning recovery effective. Recovery requires systematic planning. Simply having a day off is insufficient. Active and conscious rest must be scheduled. Recommendations. Regular short breaks, 5 to 10 minutes every 90 to 120 minutes to reduce cognitive fatigue. Dedicated recovery time, 20 to 30 minutes daily for meditation. Breathing or creative activities. Structured weekends include nature walks, physical activity, hobbies, and social interaction. Work-rest boundaries, separate professional and personal time. Disable notifications after work. Planned rest ensures intentional and effective recovery. 5.2 Sleep and daytime pause. Sleep is the cornerstone of recovery quality. 7 to 9 hours. Dark, cool, quiet environment. Power nap, 15 to 20 minutes. Post-lunch enhances focus without grogginess. Consists fix sleep, wake times, stabilize circadian rhythms, combined with daytime pauses. Sleep maintains energy and cognitive balance. 5-3 micro habits. For resilience, small habits support daily recovery and resilience. Mindful breathing, a few deep breaths before work or after stress. 5-minute movement breaks, stretch or light exercise every 2 to 3 horse journaling, noting emotions and achievements reduces emotional strain. Micro switches. Task variation every 60 to 90 minutes reduces cognitive fatigue. Creative pauses. 10 to 15 minutes of art, writing, or music daily. These habits are easy to implement and effectively reduce stress, even with a busy schedule. 5.4 conscious rest in intensive work conditions during heavy workloads. Recovery should be short but deliberate. Micro meditations. 1, 2, 3 minutes of breathing at the workspace, lunchtime walks, change of environment, and light movement screen. Breaks, reading a book or social interaction instead of scrolling. Day. Rituals. 5 to 10 minutes of relaxation before leaving work or sleeping even under intense schedules. Conscious strategies maintain productivity and prevent chronic fatigue. Conclusion: the paradox of rest is that not all rest restores energy. Passive leisure, information overload, and lack of physical activity do not allow full recovery. Conscious recovery, in contrast, involves active management of rest, including meditation, breathing exercises, physical activity, nature walks, and creative engagement. Regular practice reduces stress and cortisol, enhances psychological resilience and adaptability, improves cognitive function, focus, and creative eye. Builds long-term resilience to stress. Integrating conscious recovery into daily life is not a luxury, but a strategy for maintaining health, productivity, and quality of life. A mindful approach transforms rest from a formal pause into a powerful tool for enhancing the resilience of body and mind, creating harmony between work, recovery, and personal life.